Kimball. He is an advisor to the Emerson College Polling Society. Spencer, with a good morning to you. Let's talk about the exit polls, out of Indiana, which showed Trump with a negative rating among women throughout that state. Also, looking at the suburbs specifically, 69%, 70% there. Hillary Clinton seems to also be struggling with these groups there, but not as much as he is. Trump's negative ratings in Indiana mirror his national negative numbers with other groups like the non-whites. As the Trump campaign mulls over a vice presidential pick, is there anyone whose name that has been floated that you think could actually help Trump boost his negatives?
Well, in order for Trump to lower those negatives, Alex, he's going to have to bring somebody in who's, very well liked within the party, and somebody who's willing to go on the line in a presidential year, which is, a bit untraditional. So one of these rising stars that we've been hearing about is Susana Martinez, the governor out of New Mexico. She would obviously bring in the Hispanic vote, potentially help him with the female vote. But Trump might also try to double down on his Tea Party and bring in a person like Allen West and try to bring, from Florida, and try to rise his popularity amongst African Americans, which is also a group that Trump is going to need to secure. So there's a lot of wild cards out there, maybe even Chris Christie from New Jersey, if he wants to double down on the male vote and try to capitalize on that. Yeah,
and Allen West would sure bring in the conservatives. Allen West would do that. NBC's electoral map, based on recent polling, shows Clinton easily defeating Trump. The numbers are 253 to 190. Do you see any opportunities where Trump could improve his polling and win?
Well, I wouldn't take those numbers too solidly at this point. What we saw in the primaries was very large turnouts on the Republican side. In Florida, the Republicans turned out by 500,000 over the Democrats, about 2.2 million to 1.7. Up in Ohio, the Republicans turned out by 800,000 more. So I think those two states are potential states that Trump could swing. I would be looking at Michigan, a state that had about the same turnout of Republicans and Democrats, and we saw Hillary losing that state to Bernie. I mean, it was only by 2 points, but it was much more competitive than people believed. New Hampshire is a state that Trump had a higher turnout. The Republicans had a higher turnout. So we're looking at the turnout numbers and then projecting. We don't think that this is a very traditional race, particularly on the Republican side. So I think it's important that we look under the hood in all of these states to see what's really going to go on.
But what about those down ballot races overall? I mean, you've got some Republicans like Senator John McCain who are saying they're actually worried about their reelection chances if Trump is the nominee. Do you have any polling to support that?
Yeah, there's obviously 34 Senate races up, and the Republicans have to defend 24 of those. Illinois, Florida, Wisconsin, those are all very difficult seats. Now, John McCain in Arizona, if he's up, particularly amongst the minorities and the Hispanics, what Hillary was able to do in the primaries was create this minority coalition, and it really was strong in the African American and Hispanic groups. If that's the case, you're looking at states like Colorado, Arizona, Nevada, Florida. In this summer, what we'll be looking at is those voter registration drives, like your guest said earlier, with the Asian Americans. That's the key right now, is the organization on the ground. And there is a chance that we've been seeing in numbers that a state like Arizona could flip and send John McCain home.
Yeah, I want to go back to some of the exit polls out of Indiana, in which they showed Trump also struggling with white men and white independents, although Hillary Clinton is having a tougher time with those groups there, at least in Indiana. And throughout the country with other groups like millennials. Does Clinton stand a chance of winning over these key groups if Sanders refuses to encourage his supporters to back her in the general election?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, Alex, because those millennials really bought into what Bernie was selling. That was an outsider approach. We're seeing the same thing with Trump as an outsider approach. And I think what's very interesting to point out is with the independents throughout the election, as I said earlier, they were breaking for Trump and they were breaking for Bernie. Are these independents going to break for that were breaking for Bernie will break for Trump in the general election and really shake up the board come the fall?
We shall see. Spencer Kimball, thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you, Alex.
Let's go to some other news now. And the alleged gang rape detailed on an anonymous